Hey everybody, we're back again today with another classic album song ranking here with Sam St. John, my usual partner. Today's guest is Aaron Mutha Alamare. We are doing the Cars debut album from 1978, sort of a new wave, power pop. Yeah, we want to hold that up. Aaron's got his behind him.
Yep.
Sam and I are here. Great album, great debut album, first of all. And we've done all kinds of genres so far, Sam and I, in our series. We've done a lot of course, classic rock, some hard rock, some folk, some Americana, some singer-songwriter. But we haven't really touched on the new wave part of music yet, late 70s into early 80s. And the Cars are really quintessential. They have to be done. They one of the leaders, along with the Talking Heads and the Police, of that movement. So glad to be doing it. Guys, how's it going? Aaron, great for you to join us today. I appreciate you coming on again. Always have a good time. And I know this was one of the ones you put on your list, so I know you're big on this album.
Yep. Grew up, I've liked the Cars since I was a teenager, one of my favorite bands of that genre. Now, I have to say, this debut album, if I was, I'm mainly hard rock, heavy metal guy,
Right.
But for debut albums, if I was to make a top 10 or 20 list, this would be probably the only one that wasn't hard rock or metal that would make it.
Yeah.
Wow.
For me.
Yeah, I can see that because it's that good. Sam, I know you're recently getting used to this album. We talked about doing it. You said, well, I'm not familiar with the deep cuts, but that's been taken care of. So what do you think in the first 3-4 weeks that you listened to it? Not in terms of each song, but as an overall album, it's pretty strong.
It's a strong album. And again, thank you, Rich, for giving me the physical copy of it. I didn't have that. I probably never would have bought it otherwise. I liked it a lot. Actually, we were texting, Rich and I, this past week. Well, yeah, I guess yesterday before filming this. And I was saying, this is tough for me to rank because, again, like a lot of the albums that we've done, it's only 9 songs, which always makes it a little bit more difficult because you're automatically into a single digit ranking. And obviously you have like about four or five of these that are, pretty much radio mainstays, even still on classic rock radio.
Yeah.
And what surprised me the most was how much I liked the songs that I didn't know and how they, bumped some songs differently than I thought they might. But it's a great album. It's one of those defining new wave sounds with Rick Ocasek and Benjamin Orr. What can you say? It's classic late 70s new wave.
Yeah, and I like the fact that there's 2 different lead singers too. They each have their cuts on the album. Ocasek's really the founder and leader of the band, but Orr does a great job on his songs. I was surprised that this only peaked at number 18 on the US charts as an album because I thought it would have been higher, but it did last 139 weeks on the chart. So it that's like what, almost 3 years. Once it broke, it was on the charts. People were buying this album left and right. Came out in June of 78. They're out of Boston, Mass, the group. A lot of catchy hooks and great guitar work on this particular album as well. Everything about it is strong. So let's dive in. What we do is we rank the songs in reverse order. Like Sam said, 9 songs. We'll start with Aaron, Sam, and myself and go around until we get down to number 1. So start it off, Aaron. What do you have at your number 9 position?
All right. Well, this is a tough one because my top 3 I knew instantly, and then all the rest was kind of just it was really hard to rank them. And even my number 9 I like a lot, but for my number 9 I'm going with Don't You Stop. For the last song on the first side, I think it's a really good song, kind of a fast song. Yeah. But to me it's just my least favorite on the album, even though I'd rank it like around a 9 or 8.5 or a 9 as a song. I really like it, but to me that's just my weakest track. And before I started thinking about this, I was thinking that was going to be about 7, 6 or 7. And it kind of, the more I listened, it kind of like, well, these other ones are better. But exactly. Don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop,
Yeah, they repeat that a little much.
Really good song.
It is. That's a good choice. What about you, Sam?
For me, I'm going to go with I'm in Touch with Your World as my number 9. To me, it's kind of the most it's not the best mixed, I guess, out of all the songs. The vote, at least the copy that I have, the vocals aren't up front like a lot of the other songs. Again, it sounds like the era, which again, the whole album does. I mean, new wave is not something that you hear much of anymore, unless you see these guys live, you know, the guys that are still around doing it. It kind of has some like the sound effects, kind of sounds like a Mario video game in the background, and you have like the carnival whistle that goes off, kind of like Rainy Day Women by Bob Dylan. Really good bass intro. I mean, Benjamin Orr really tears it up on the bass. He's a great bass player. And then you got that kick drum going. I mean, so it's an okay song. Again, it's one of those, it's kind of repetitive, kind of like Don't Just Stop. It's got some repetition in it. There's not really a main hook that grabs you, so it's number 9.
Yeah, it's my number 9 also, just by a hair. Sonically, it's very bizarre. It's kind of almost avant-garde in a way. It's just it doesn't have the catchy hooks that the rest of the album has. For me, lyrically, it's weird. I don't know, it just doesn't fit in as well as some of the other tunes for me on this album. It may work on a different album, but I'm just, you know, after you're listening to all these catchy hooks and harmonies and stuff, and here comes this song that feels a little bit out of place. It's definitely my least favorite, although the one Aaron has is probably coming soon. So let's get to number 8.
And number 8 for me is I'm in Touch with Your World. Kind of for the same reasons, but I think it's really, I like the nonsensical lyrics, like the Weisenheimer brainstorm, all that weird stuff. Always, you know, always puts these weird images in my mind when I hear it. And I think it's a really good song. And like you said, Benjamin Orr is a beast on the bass. I'm actually more of a Ben Orr guy than a Rick Ocasek. I always have been. Like, I don't want to give anything away, but I just, I've always gravitated towards the Ben Orr songs.
Yeah.
Even though Rick Ocasek wrote some of them, I like his vocal style and his delivery a lot. But he doesn't sing this one, of course. But I'm in Touch with the World. I think it's a great song. Like I said, I like those weird lyrics. And I'm in Touch with Your World, my number 8. So
Very nice.
I think we're all going to be somewhere on the bottom here.
I think so. What do you got, Sam?
Number 8 for me. I think Brian mentioned this the other day on a live or on a video that we did. The song "I'm in Touch with Your World." Oh, excuse me, sorry. "Moving in Stereo." I was looking up the wrong. "Moving in Stereo" is my number 8. Kind of a spacey intro. It's a Benjamin Orr song. I think all the songs really were written by Ocasek, like kind of like Aaron was saying. And it's neat that Orr kind of takes up the second half of the album for the most part.
Yeah.
And this is that second to last track. It goes right into, you know, All Mixed Up at the end, which a few of these songs do. They kind of merge into one another, which is cool, which I like on an album. It makes it more of an art form. To me, this sounds kind of like a David Bowie-esque kind of sounding vocals to it. Again, kind of a slower groove to it. It's the longest track on the album, and one of my notes was it feels like the longest track on the album to me. It clocks in just under 5 minutes, and you kind of get that, you know, classic new wave keyboard sound in the background, like just on the treble clef. It's not really on both sides of the keyboard, but it's an okay song. Again, it's kind of that slower groove, and Orr is kind of bringing out his inner David Bowie, I think. So it's number 8.
Yeah, that's one I like a little bit more, but we'll get to that. My number 8 is "Don't You Stop." So I have the 8-9 combo there. Like Aaron said, it's fast moving. It does have a feel good vibe to it with that "Don't you stop, don't you stop." It's kind of infectious in a way. The drums are prominent on it. I like the voice of Ocasek on this too, and it's up tempo, which I've mentioned, but it's on another album. I don't know, it might be a little higher, but the songs in front of this, the 7 that I have in front of this, are really strong. So I had to put it at number 8, and I like it better than "I'm in Touch with Your World," which is just a little too out there for me. So that's my justification for where I put these bottom 2. All right, let's move to number 7. This will be interesting because I think from 7 up, most of these songs are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And number 7 for me is one of the biggest hits on the record, is my number 7. And it's a great song. I absolutely love it. It's kind of got a countryish flair to it. And it's My Best Friend's Girl is my number 7, which might be someone's favorite. I can imagine that. But for me, always, this is the one I really like the lyrics a lot too. And I like how Rick Ocasek, you know, it's kind of, you know, sense of humor and mixed in with this weird relationship stuff. And I love the song. I mean, on any other record, this might be number 1 or 2 for me, but this album's so strong that My Best Friend's Girl is my number 7. And I really, the guitar work, Elliot Easton is very underrated.
I think
He's
so.
he's a really good guitarist. And, I just love his, it's kind of a country-ish, what do you say, kind of flair to that guitar he does in it.
It's got that twang to it.
Yeah.
It almost give almost a Tom Petty feel, that song in a way too. But that's a positive, not a negative. But that's just how much I love this album. It's at 7. Like I said, on one of their other albums, this will be in my top 3.
Yeah. Yep, I can see that. Okay, number 7, Sam. What do you have?
Well, I'm not going with that song, but I'm going to be in the same wheelhouse in that I'm knocking off one of the heavy hitters at number 7. And I'm going to go with the opening track, Good Times Roll. It's never been a track that I've loved. Again, it's one of those, they play it a lot, which, if you've seen any of these series, you know that's a big turnoff for me when something's played a lot, because up until 5 or 6 years ago, I listened to a lot of the radio. And so I kind of got oversaturated by a lot of the classic rock stuff. I don't know. It's got that classic Ocasek sound. It was like the world listening to Rick Ocasek for the first time. Again, very choppy, almost, flat vocals. I like the line about, let them brush your rock and roll hair. That's a funny line, and it kind of shows that they weren't taking themselves too seriously. I mean, when they call themselves the Cars, I mean, that's not exactly, we're serious about our rock and roll. They're not exactly, breaking, monumental ground, but they definitely, again, like I said earlier, they definitely broke the mold in new wave, kind of gave it a sound that we associate with, and I mean, there's a reason it's a hit, but it's never been one that's stuck out to me. So it's number 7.
Yeah, it's my number 7 too. Of the hits, this is my least favorite.
That's surprising.
Cool guitar riff. Synthesizer is very good too on this. It's kind of the star of the song. And the harmonies, very Queen-like. Let the good times roll. And good times roll. It's like a Queen kind of background harmonies that
Definitely.
I like it, but we're talking about cream of the crop. The 5 in front of this are absolutely, or was it 5? No, it's 6 in front of this that are like 9.5s and up for me, as far as just individual songs. It's repetitive. Once they get into that good times roll, they go with it. It's catchy. If you were at a party or something, this is playing in the background, this would be a cool song. Let the good times roll. Let the good times roll. They get into it, but solid song, but number 7 on the list for this particular album. And if I were making a playlist of 20 car songs, that song might not be in it, believe it or not. I might pick 20 other songs that would be ahead of it. I think the Cars are that deep with great tunes.
I thought for sure that would be your number 1.
Nah, my number 1 is always been my number 1.
Okay.
Same with me.
And it won't be the same as Aaron's. I can tell you that right now. But I think I know what Aaron's is. If I were predicting, I think I'd win on this one, but we'll find out. Let's get to number 6.
I actually did a top 10 Cars song with the guys on one of our Thursdays, so my number 1's the same as it was on that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My number 6 is the first song sung by Ben Orr. It's Bye Bye Love. Love that song. It's very catchy. It's actually one of the oldest Cars songs. It's one of the ones they did, like one of their first written songs from this. It was done with them as a different band before. Yeah. And it's a really good song. I love it. And I love Ben Orr's vocals. And, I like it just a hair more than Best Friend's Girl. I was flipping, it was a flip-flop for me on those two. But I like Ben Orr just a little more than Rick Ocasek, so I put it there. It's a great song.
It is. Very cool. Sam, 6.
I made my original list, my original top 9 yesterday when I listened to this album, and then I re-listened to the album again today. And this particular song was my number 5, but then it switched places, so it bumped down to number 6, and that's the song All Mixed Up. It's a crunchy guitar. It's got that great, that heavy kick drum to it throughout the song. And at one point, they copied Phil Spector, with Be My Baby. They hit that doom, doom doom ba.
Yeah.
They hit that note again, which I like. And actually, that's probably the reason I had it at number 5, just based on that one point. But then I was thinking, like, that's not necessarily an original concept, but I've always loved that drums, that particular beat in any song. And then it ends with that great saxophone fade by Greg Hawkes. And I mean, it's a killer saxophone, so I like a good sax solo. And I mean, it's a great song. Like I said, crunchy. It's got that heavy backbeat to it that I like a lot. So very, very musical, and that's what I liked a lot about it. So number 6.
Yeah, my number 6 is Moving in Stereo. And you know, you mentioned the Bowie kind of sound. It does have an out of this world sound to it. He has a distorted vocal in the middle of the song too. Ocasek or rather. And it's just an awesome new wave type of song. It sounds new. It sounds different than what you've heard in the past in 1978. It's infectious and Moving in Stereo. I enjoy it. And we always refer back to that. If you've seen the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High, when Phoebe Cates is in the red bikini, she's coming out of the pool. This is the song they're playing at the time, Moving in Stereo. I always remember that, seared in my brain for some reason. You know what that reason is, but anyway, Moving in Stereo. It's a cool song. I think it's a really cool song, and it could have been anywhere from 3 to 6 on my ranking, but it comes in at 6 based on today's listening. All right, top 5. What do we have?
My number 5 is Good Times Roll. Love that song, and I think it's a great way to start out the album. It just has that kind of slow that builds and builds, but it's kind of weird because it's Good Times Roll, but it's kind of like a down song. It's not like a real like Good Times Roll. It's like the Good Times Roll. I like that about it. Kind of like a dual song to me. And it's a great one. It would be on my top 20.
Okay.
But I can see where you're saying though, because it's so different, because you're thinking Good Times Roll is gonna be all happy, and it's kind of a dark song in a way. And that's why I like it so much too though. So and I love the lyrics.
Yeah.
All these lyrics. Rick Ocasek's a great songwriter.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5 for Sam.
Number 5 is one that you both had very low, and I like it a lot. And like I said, 2 hours ago, this was my number 6, but it flip-flopped with All Mixed Up. And that's Don't You Stop. I really like it. I like the catchiness of it. Apparently it was the B-side of Best Friend's Girl, which would have been a killer single. I mean, good grief. Again, you've got that very new wave sound to it. Again, y'all talked about the repetition of the title, Don't You Stop, Don't You Stop. Really fast drumming. They're playing the high end on the synth, and again, the guitar solos in it. Again, you don't think of a new wave band as being musical. You think of like the 80s as being a lot of, synth and button pushing, and, like people like Kraftwerk and Pet Shop Boys or groups like that. But the Cars, they fit right in there with like a musicality to them. So that's why I like it. And I think it's a great tune. Don't You Stop.
Okay, my number 5 is All Mixed Up, which is, it segues from Moving in Stereo into All Mixed Up, the 8 and 9 tunes on the album sequence wise, but I have it at number 5. Ben Orr again. I love the killer arrangement on this. The harmonies are beautiful. The lyric writing, just a sample here. She tricks me into thinking, I can't believe my eyes. I wait for her forever, but she never does arrive. And then it's all mixed up. It's all mixed up. Do. And then that harmony. She said, leave it to me. Everything will be all right. And again, the background, everything will be all right. They really rise with it. Beautifully arranged. A great song to end the album with, I think. And that saxophone that Sam mentioned, the fade out, fantastic. This is really a great song, and played back to back with Moving in Stereo. It's like almost 9 minutes of great music. I think they're real strong. So, and Ben Orr, Aaron's guy, really closes the album well with the vocalizing, I think. So here we go. Number 4.
My number 4 is All Mixed Up. same. I was going to mention she said to leave me alone. It'll be all right. Part.
Yeah.
It's so catchy.
It is.
It's like when I first was thinking this is going to be on my list, that was my number 9. And then I kept listening and listening. And that song is so catchy. It was actually a single over in somewhere in Europe or something like that too. They had that as a single. And it's just such a great song. And I think that has the best guitar work on the whole album from Elliot Easton. It's just his guitar work in that is awesome. And like I said, this Greg Hawkes with the sax solo. I'm not big into those instruments, but it fits with that song so perfectly at the end of it. And this song is really cool because it's almost like a few different songs pieced together. Almost reminds me of Happiness is a Warm Gun from the Beatles. It starts off and then it changes and it changes. It keeps different sections to it. And it's just really a catchy, great song. And it's become one of my favorites in the last few years, even though I've known this record. I've heard it since 1978 or around there. You know, I didn't get into it till 1980. But still, I've heard it for most of my life. And that song is creeping up later in my life for some reason, more than the others.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, number 4.
Number 4's also already been mentioned. It's Bye Bye Love. Again, great keyboards at the beginning. Again, pointing out Orr's bass playing, fantastic. Again, I didn't really realize it until listening to this album how underrated he is in terms of bassists that are talked about. You always hear about McCartney, you always hear about Sting or and Whistle or any of those guys, but you don't really hear about Benjamin Orr as being a great bass player, and he really is. And like Aaron said, it's an old song. It was in Orr's NOK6 old band. I love how they say the title. It's like bye love. Like bye love is like one word. Like it's neat phrasing, completely different than the Everly Brothers Bye Bye Love. And I love Orr's vocals. I'm kind of with Aaron. I think between the two main guys, Orr is the guy. It's a shame that he had the ending that he did, but you have that spacey kind of ending into it that goes right into Moving in Stereo, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Just that segue. It's like, especially somebody like me listening to this album for the first few times, you're like, did that song end? Is it the new song? And then sure enough, it has a different melody.
Yeah.
So it's a great song. Again, this is one of those I'd never heard before until 2 weeks ago. So
Wow.
yeah, I know. It's a great song.
Yeah, that's a biggie for me. My number 4 is, I think it's the hardest rocking song on the album. It's probably Aaron's number 1, but we'll get to that. You're All I've Got Tonight. This is a really, this has all the elements. This is one that I can crank up, put the headphones on. It's got Elliot Easton, I think, tears it up at times on this on guitar. I like OK6 voice with this. Hawks on keyboards. It's got all the elements of the Cars' best work into one. They're all on display, and it is a hard rock tune at times for the Cars. It's more than new wave because it really jams at times at certain points, especially when Elliot lets it go in the middle of the song here. So for that reason, I'm putting it at 4. It's those 3 quintessential catchy tunes that I have that beat it out. Otherwise, this would be number 1. They just happen to all come in one album, and I just like those 3 monster songs a little bit better. For my own personal taste, that's all.
And I'm kind of following you up a lot. This is really weird because my number 3 is You're All I Got Tonight.
Oh, wow. You surprised me. Okay.
Yeah, I love this song. And, on any other album except for Candy O, this would be my number 1.
I agree.
If it was on any other album but Candy O, because there's a song from Candy O called Let's Go. That's my second favorite Cars song. But
yep,
You're All I Got Tonight might be my favorite song Rick Ocasek ever sang. I love that song. Like you said, it's almost a hard rock song. That's the thing about the Cars. They kind of appealed to, they weren't just new wave. They had a little punk in them, a little hard rock in them, a little bit of, the new wave, of course, but they appealed all across the board, which most new wave bands didn't. That's what's so special about them. But You're All, like you summed it up great with You're All I Got Tonight. It's a hard rocking song, so catchy. I love the intro.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's so killer.
Yeah.
And, I was really close to putting it at number 2, but it's my number 3, and it's my fourth favorite Cars song is my number 3 on this list. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing song. I love You're All I've Got Tonight. And the odd thing is, I don't think they put that on their greatest hits.
I don't know
Which
how
is
they
weird.
can leave it off, but that's crazy. It's a monster.
I could check. I got it right there.
Yeah.
I think that if I
Hey,
remember
go
right, it's
check,
not-
because I'd like to
What's
know.
that?
Go check it
Let me
out.
look.
I'd just like to know, because I would think that's an automatic.
Yeah, it's not. I always thought it was a weird omission, because the greatest hits right here that they
Yeah.
put out in '85 has Just What I Needed, Since You're Gone, You Might Think, Good Times Roll, Touch and Go, Drive, Tonight She Comes, My Best Friend's Girl, Let's Go, I'm Not the One, Magic, and Shake It Up. So You're All I Got Tonight isn't on here.
Should
And
be
I always
on there.
thought
I
that
mean,
was a,
That's hard to do, because
Yeah.
they're all great songs, but I would put that on there.
yeah, those are all.
All right, Sam, what do you have at 3?
Number 3, it's another one of the big boys. It's Just What I Needed is number 3. Again, I think this was the moment, like early on, because again, I always could tell the Cars when they came on the radio. I mean, it was very obvious. And even though Benjamin Orr and Rick Ocasek, you know, they have a very similar sound, but it's very different as well. But like when you're just a novice, like listening to it in the car on the way to school, I could tell it was the Cars. I didn't know it was another singer, but I think this was the first song I realized that, oh, the Cars have 2 singers. I didn't know that. But I mean, Benjamin Orr is crazy good on this. Again, you have the crunch of guitars, that drum intro. It's, you know, it's the synthy interludes. It's, you know, that classic, you know, flowers in your hair. It's just like a weird, a modulation to how they get to the next note. But like I said earlier, it's kind of, they sing like this flat to get to where they're going in their vocals, and it's really good. I love the background vocals on it. You can imagine them like playing this like in a garage, but before they were starting out, kind of thing. Like oh, this is a hit. This is going to be big. It's just one of those songs. I mean, it's a fantastic song. It's in movie soundtracks, it's on commercials. It's everywhere. It's one of those quintessential car songs that, you know, it would definitely have to make a top 20 for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Bye Bye Love, Ben Orr tune. Well constructed. It's just a classic. I love the guitar on this again. The synthesizer. Hawks is underrated. I mean, he looks like this college kind of professor geek kind of guy, but he adds so much to the band that that's different from other bands at that time. Love the songwriting, the imagery. It's an orangey sky, always some other guy. It's just a broken lullaby. Bye Bye Love. And then there's that part at the end where it goes dun, 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 and then it goes that woo, and it goes right into the other song, which is cool. And some of these lyrics here are brief, but they're well written here. Substitution, mass confusion, clouds inside your head were fogging all my energies until you visited. With your eyes of porcelain and of blue, they shocked me into sense. You think you're so illustrious, you call yourself intense. Really good songwriting. It works within the music as well. So Bye Bye Love is a great song. There are times that it may be number 1 for me, just on pure listening enjoyment. But those 2 monster FM staples that I have in front of it are just too hard to ignore for me. All right, let's get to number 2, Aaron.
I'm so happy you have that so high, because I'm a big Ben Orr guy, and I felt bad putting it as low as I did. So my number 2 is Moving in Stereo.
Yeah.
And I love that song. And like Rich says, I can't hear it without thinking of Phoebe Cates. But, anyone our age will know what that, will know. But that song is just so different. And there's never been anything quite like it. I mean, at that point in music, it was just so unique. And it's one of those songs, it wasn't one of my favorites for the first 10 years I heard this album. And it grew on me and grew on me. And all the different sounds of it, it's just so good. And it just blows me away every time I hear it still.
Yeah.
It's one of those that really grow on you a lot. So Sam, maybe years down the road, it might appeal to you a little more. But I like the weird stuff anyway, though. It is very avant-garde, very out there.
Yeah.
And, just that intro and that weird noise coming in and dun, dun, I love it so much. And it's become my second favorite. It's my third favorite Cars song in overall. And just Ben Orr's bass playing, everything about it is great. And it's my number 2.
Good.
Number 2 for me, y'all both mentioned it. This was probably the biggest surprise for me that it was this high, because it's not one that they play very much on the radio. I've probably heard it, 10 times total in my life before I started listening to this, and that's "You're All I've Got Tonight." Absolutely love this song. It's one of those I'm gonna this would be one of the ones that I'll just go back to and listen to just this song, when I'm listening to just shuffled music. You got those drums that are kind of like clubbed. I think they're played with mallets to give them that sound, kind of muted. I wrote tasty guitar licks throughout the entire song. I mean, it's just like they're playing the studio, like, hey, throw this at them, and there it is, and then something else, and then play it again. And I did write it's one of the heavier ones on the album. Again, you got that abrupt ending into "Bye Bye Love," which is cool. This is the one that I wrote a few lyrics down. "You can make me, I don't care, and you can fake me, I don't care. You can love me just about anywhere, it's all right, because you're all I've got tonight." Again, they've got the humor there, and like in a lot of their songs that we've mentioned earlier. But it's just a great song. It's one of those. I wish it was a little bit. I wish it was a little bit longer. It's a 4-minute track. They could have extended it out a little bit longer. And again, I think it probably should have been a bigger hit as a song, but I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because it didn't get oversaturated for me. So I got it at number 2.
Nice. My number 2 is "Just What I Needed." There's that little ticking thing at the beginning, and then the guitar comes in, the drums, the synth. It's got the whole thing luring you in. Amazing guitar here by Mr. Easton. I like the lyrics. It's not the perfume that you wear. It's not the ribbons in your hair. I don't mind you hanging out and talking in your sleep. Just cool lyrics that I appreciate. Comes together. It rocks towards the end. What else do I have here? Just a power pop staple. I mean, I could not leave this out of my top 2. It's just a matter of what number 1 was going to be. This would be in contention for number 1 anytime. I know it's overplayed. It's a massive hit for the Cars, but I love it. When I think of the Cars, I think of this song along with the one that's number 1. Those are the 2 I think of the most off the same album. Great stuff. Just what I needed. And then I needed someone, and then the music after the lyrics is just killer. I love it. It's just well put together, great arrangement. Fantastic. Elliot Easton, to me, is one nobody ever talks about as a great guitarist, but he's fantastic, really. I mean, every song he's contributing something special. And he gets overlooked for whatever reason. Maybe it's the genre and it's not hard rock or blistering solos or whatever, but he's adding these little ditties that perk up the song and they make it special. And it's just good, solid music to listen to at any time. It's fun, and yet the lyrics sometimes are a little dark, a little cynical, but very enjoyable for me.
I would go to say that the Cars are probably one of the last bands before the 80s kicked in that were a guitar band. I mean, before like you started getting a lot of electronic music and synth, they were one of the last bands. Because I mean, what was this? You said 78.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this album. I mean, you had Tom Petty a couple of years prior, which they were calling new wave, but he wasn't. But this was like that end of the 70s. Disco was huge at this point.
Yes.
Which was a lot of just like drum bass and like drum machine. So they were one of the last huge groups to have a musicality about them. Not that there weren't groups like in the early 80s that weren't, but they kind of really ended one era into another one.
Yeah, and we were starved back in the 70s for something new and innovative. I didn't like punk. It was just too raw for me. So disco is, his own little thing, which, you either like or you don't like. but rock was sort of changing, and new wave came in, and the Cars were it for me. They were the best of the new wave bands that I thought. I mean, the Talking Heads are cool in their own way, but I'm not a huge fan. The Police, hit and miss, depending on the album, but the Cars are solid.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, let's get down to number one. What do you guys have? Aaron, what do you have at one?
Well, first off, I would like to add something I forgot to add about You're All I've Got Tonight. It's really weird. The lyrics, You're All I've Got Tonight, it's like two different things. It's like a positive or is it a negative of what he's talking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
I really love how they do that. They do that
They're
with
good
a
at
lot.
that. Yeah.
But my number one has been my favorite car song from day one. It's always been my favorite car song. And just the other day, like 2 days ago, I was going to work and I had a car CD on my stereo. Put it on, all the hairs stood up as soon as the music started. It was just what I needed. Always been my favorite car song, always will be. I just absolutely love it. Ben Orr, and just how it starts off. And it's very inspired by the Velvet Underground Ohio Players, actually. They have little bits of both of a couple of their songs that they kind of go off of. And it's just, it's every time I hear it, the hairs on my arm stand up still, even after hearing it probably 1,000 times in my life.
Yeah.
And that's rare for a song to do.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Love the lyrics. It's just, I like you were saying, those kind of subdued lyrics, and then they have the really catchy chorus, and it mixes so well together.
Yeah.
And it's there. As soon as I did this list, it was number one. Then it was for the rest. Always been my favorite, and there it is. Just what I needed, number one for me. And I knew what you guys had number one to be from the beginning.
I was close. Just what I needed. It was right on, knocking on the door. It was number two.
That's awesome.
Close. All right, Sam, what do you have?
Yeah. Well, Rich and we agree yet again. My best friend's girl, number one. I mean, Aaron said it earlier, and that's probably the big reason it's got that petty country kind of sound to it. I didn't think really petty. I put beatly in guitar tone. It's kind of got like that like 1965 George Harrison. Like it kind of sounds like it could have been on Help. Yeah, like that kind of guitar tone. I mean, yeah, what can you say? It's just one of those great songs. Here she comes again,
Yeah.
my best friend's girl. And at the end, they add that, best friend's girlfriend. And they
Right.
I don't know why they do that kind of at the end. Really neat how they do it. I mean, I love the guitar in it. Again, I was talking earlier about being a guitar band, and this is kind of proof that, yeah, it's new wave, and new wave is associated with synth, but this right here is showing how good of a band they were. And yeah, it's one of those exceptions that I make to a song that's on the radio all the time. This is one that I really, really like. I mean, I liked it, before I listened to this album. So that was kind of like, that was my go-to. I knew immediately that was number one. I knew what my number 9 was, and then just filling in those blanks. But yeah, I mean, Rich, you can add on to it.
Well, I agree with everything you said. It hasn't always been my number one. I have to say that I fluctuate between Just What I Needed, Bye Bye Love, and even You're All I've Got Tonight. They're all 1A for me. They're all excellent. But my best friend's girl, I just love the hand claps at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a pop. It's a poppy kind of song in a way. A great guitar playing again by Easton. I keep repeating myself, but it's true. I like the lyrics. They're kind of, I wouldn't say punky, but they have that punk element to them. Like, when you bite your lip, it's some reaction to love of, and then the chorus, here she comes again. Just a cool melodic classic. What else do I have here? Here she comes again when she's dancing neath the starry skies. She's my best friend's girl, and she used to be mine. I mean, it's just
She
cool.
used to be mine.
And she used to be mine. Here comes the tasty little guitar. It's not overplayed. It's restrained, but it does the trick in the song. It's just an excellent pop tune with new wave vibes to it. Again, you think of this as a monster hit because it is now, and they always play it. But it only reached number 35 in the U.S. on the charts back then. I don't know what the hell they were playing. There were 34 songs that particular time that were more played. It had to be garbage, but on
It's
FM, And
Like
FM
disco.
radio, this was what they were playing, you know, all the time and stuff. So you can't go necessarily by the charts after a certain period of time, like the mid 70s. They started getting weird with some of the disco and schmaltz, that type of thing. But I like the 60s charts. They're accurate because that was the best music they played. Whatever was on the charts in the 60s was the best music. But in the 70s, not necessarily true.
A lot of that had to do with so a lot of the albums in the 70s were stronger all the way through too, though. They had a lot
That's
of better
true. Deep cuts, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And FM radio back in those days, anyway, they didn't have a playlist. They got the DJs decide what to play, and a lot of them went into the deep cuts and they played. Sometimes they played album side. Sometimes they just, you know, played back songs by the same band. It was more free form radio back then. It was fun to listen to. They didn't go by a playlist where you're hearing all the same tunes all the time. Now we're getting saturated with that, and that's what turns people like Sam off. And a lot of people, they only hear the hits. They don't get to hear the deeper tracks and the hidden gems that all these albums, the good ones, have.
Which is terrible because even, I mean, you've even got albums. I mean, bands like, for example, one of my favorite newer bands is Fountains of Wayne. And all they ever play, you know, is like the novelty Stacy's Mom. But if you listen to Fountains of Wayne stuff, they've got hard rock, they've got punk, they've got jangle pop, they got country. And I mean, they're just one of those instances where they were categorized as a one-hit wonder, and that's what you get. And it's terrible because there's so much good music.
I know.
But
can I have one small thing?
Yes,
I
sir.
just like anyone that's a Cars fan, if you've never heard this album, came out in 2011 after Ben Orr died, but it's amazing. And Greg Hawkes does the bass on it, so it's the original 4 members, and it sounds like an old Cars album. It's really good. It's called Move Like This. Listen to the song Blue Tip. Amazing. It'll like throw you right back into 80s cars. It's just really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna write it down. Blue Tip.
Yeah, Blue Tip. Check out the song Blue Tip. I mean, that one, if that doesn't sound like old Cars to you, you know, it just, as soon as you hear it, it's like, oh, that's the Cars. It's just, it's great. And not a very well-known album, and I'm looking for this on vinyl. Can't find it.
I like that album cover too. It's cool with the colors like that.
Yeah.
Very distinct. All right, now we're going to get into the album ranking where we rank it 1 to 10. Just something we do at the end to let us know how much we really like the album. 1 being bottom of the barrel, 10 being perfection, and then 5 right we're in the middle. What do you have, Aaron?
Well, it's not quite a 10 for me, but it's really close. For me, I'd put it like about a 9.5 to 9.75.
Okay, that's
because even Don't You Stop to me is almost a 9 song. It's my least favorite. So everything is above that to me. I think it's a great album, and probably a 9.5, 9.75, somewhere in that area.
Very good. How about you, Sam?
well, in terms of if you were ranking it on new wave albums, I'm sure, I mean, a lot of people would rank it a 10 because it's so iconic. I mean, everything from the album cover to, you know, half the album being filled with, you know, such strong material. And then the stuff that's not as strong is, you know, right there, you know, B minus, you know, range, B plus. I would give this album, again, I don't know it as well as y'all do, so I'm probably going to set it about maybe a 7.5, just because, again, it's 9 tracks. 9 and 8 are not favorites of mine, and if I was grading it like a quiz, like a 9-point quiz, that would bump it to, you know, a lower number. So that's where I'm putting it.
I'm going to give it a 9.25. To me, it's between a 9 and a 9.5 for me. And the only reason it's that is because of those 2 songs at the bottom. I'm in Touch with Your World and Don't You Stop. If they would have had more consistent songs that you know go along with the rest of the album, then those 2, I would have given it at least a 9.5, maybe like Aaron said, 9.75. But those ones drag it down a little bit. Not that they're bad songs, they're just not as good as the other material. And the other material is 10 material. It's excellent. So I think, and last week, just as a comparison, I ranked REM's Automatic for the People at an 8.75, and I like this album better. So I have to give it around a 9.25 would be my accurate score on it. So very good. That was a lot of fun. I really am glad we did this to get into the new wave. We're trying to do as much different material as we can, not just stick with classic rock and the same thing over and over and over. So good to have different genres. Glad to have Aaron. Aaron, thanks a lot again for joining us. We always appreciate it. Hope you'll come back again down the road when we get the rotation going, and
Anytime.
maybe do ZZ Top or something something like that down the road. Sam, thanks again to you. Check out these guys' channels, Aaron Mutha Alamare, Sam St. John. I will put their links in the description below. Leave us some comments. We always appreciate responding to them, and come back again next week. We'll have a new classic album song ranking for you. So for Aaron and Sam, this is Rich. Thank you very much. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yes.